Czechia today. He led them with 4 points. Here's a great chance right off the bat. They score! Vaclav Nestrasil!
Ahoj, zdraví tě hokejová máma. Dnes mám pro vás velmi speciálního hosta. Je jí Matt Keator, zakladatel a prezident Win Hockey Agency, uznávaný agent, který zastupuje hvězdy NHL. S Mattem jsem si povídala o tom, jak se liší vývoj mladých hráčů v USA v Evropě. Zajímal mě důvod, proč je Matt velkým zastáncem univerzitní cesty NCAA. Bavili jsme se i o tom, proč je pro mladého hráče neúspěch stejně důležitý jako vítězství a co přesně se skrývá pod konceptem 3H, který se Matt naučil od hokejové legendy Petra Stastného, který byl jeho mentorem. Dotkli jsme se i citlivého a důležitého tématu role rodičů. Matt nám vysvětlí, proč by rodiče měli postupně uvolňovat kontrolu nad kariérou svého dítěte a proč si myslí, že výchova mladého hokejisty není závod, ale cesta plná pokory a trpělivosti. No a protože byl Matt mimo jiné i agentem slavného Zdena Chary, pár slov vám o něm díky klukům z podcastu Mistři světa řekne i on. Tak si náš rozhovor užijte.
Jakou roli hrál ve tvém životě agent Matt Keator?
Velmi důležitou. On za mnou přijel, když jsem já byl ještě v New York Islanders a podle mě je to jeden z agentů, který je nesmírně šikovný a chytrý, co se týče plánování a přípravy na ty schody a z agenta a s manažérama, ale je výborný člověk a do dneska máme super vztah a jsem moc rád, protože on si tím celým systémem prošel začal dělat pro St. Louis Blues, dělal scouting, pak dělal nějaký hockey operations, pak dělal nějaký trenérstvo, pak začal dělat tady to agentstvo, takže on si tím systémem celým prošel a rozumí tomu.
Hi, Matt.
Hello, Lucy. Thank you very much for having me on here. I'm excited.
I am very excited too. I am very afraid about my English, but I hope my listeners will be very quiet about it. So, Matt Keator, please, could you introduce yourself to my listeners and summarize a little bit your professional career?
No, that's great. I appreciate it. I'll start right from the beginning, okay? I grew up in the U.S., and my parents were educators, okay? My father ran every school that I went to, and my mother was an English teacher. So I had an education background, and I went to college, played college hockey, went to Sweden and played professionally for a year after school. And I came back from playing in Sweden, and I was so lucky. I was 23 years old, and I became a scout for the St. Louis Blues Hockey Club. And I grew it. I went to like 300 games a year. Like I grinded. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I was making good money in sales, and I said, forget it. You got to do what you love in life, right? You have to do what you love in life. It's more important than anything. So I took a lot less money and went into scouting full time. I traveled to all across Europe. I did a lot of Europe, did a lot of North America, went to Olomouc. I'm not good at pronunciations. I went all over Czech, Slovakia, Russia, and had a great 8 years experience with the Blues. While I was scouting, they let me get my master's degree in sport management from UMass Amherst. Yes. Yep. UMass Amherst. I did a year of graduate work at Harvard University, and I helped with another person to create the 97 World Junior Hockey Championships. And I was one of the directors for that. So that was a great business experience. And then in 1997, I had to, make a little more money, and I wanted to move up in the business. So I became an agent. The problem was I didn't like agents. I didn't like them. I was like, why am I doing this? But I got into it, and it really clicked with me, right? It really resonated with me. Like my parents were educators. I liked helping people. I liked developing people. I liked, relationships. And I was fortunate enough to be mentored by some very good people. around the U.S., but also in Europe. I had Peter Stastny, Hall of Fame hockey player, former Czech-Slovak player. Peter was became one of my best friends, and because I scouted with him in St. Louis, and he really encouraged me to do this. He said, you can really make a difference and help people. So my plan was just to do this for a few years and then go back to the management side, because a lot of agents were getting into NHL management. Problem is, it took off. And I got a lot of good players early on, a lot of good European players early on. And I'll talk about that in a second, because I love my Euros. But I got players, but I wanted to stay small. And there's a trend in our business of smaller agencies getting swallowed up by bigger agencies. And you see the CAAs, the Newports, the Octagons of the world that buy up smaller agencies. I never did that. I wanted to keep it small. I didn't care to represent 100 NHL players. You know, I wanted to keep it small because I wanted to have a relationship with guys. And, you know, these firms are going to the NHL draft with 40, 50, 60 players. It's crazy. You know, I go every year with 3 to 5 players. That's it. Like, we build out each age group, and no player gets left behind at all. And I think that that's really important, and that's what it's about. And I think, as you can tell, we've built our relationship, getting to know Andre first and then you guys and Vaclav. It takes time, but it's fun. Like, I enjoy that process of starting with a kid at age 15 and going all the way through. I interviewed for I turned down the big firm thing. I wanted to do it my way. I had some interviews with general manager jobs in the NHL years ago. And I said, you know what, this is my pathway. And, you know, I've really enjoyed it. I've been able to see my family, raise my family. You know, my one son, Ryan, works with me now, which is great. And, he's got the young vibe, us older people don't have, but he really enjoys it. In the last 10 years, I built out a little bit more of an organization. I used to do it all by myself. And I've got an affiliation, a Win Hockey over in Sweden. And they've got 2 guys, Marcus Isaacson and Radek Hammer, a Czech guy. And Radek is a Czech who is an awesome guy. Both guys are great people. So Radek does recruiting of young players in Czech and Sweden in particular, former player and coach. In Vaclav's case, he was coming to the U.S. He was in the U.S., so he deals with my guy, Ian Moran, over here. So I've kind of built out this organization, but it's still very small. It's still owned by a family-owned business. I've gotten, a lot of my success is due to Europe. And, from the Stastny connection, I was able to work with, Michael Handzus, Andrei Sustry, Pavel Dimitra, very great player who unfortunately passed away. Michael Handzus, Ladislav Nagy, all the tons of Slovak players. And now I've gone heavier into Sweden with Leo Carlson, Emil Heinemann, a number of players over there. I love the European-based development model, which I hope we'll talk about because it's more technically sound than what we do over here at the younger ages. And you're on a great track there with gymnasiate programs, less games, more training. Like, you guys do it really well over in Europe. And, so anyway, that's kind of my professional career. I really love what I do and, love the relationships of it. And I've been very lucky.
You're famous in Slovak player is Zdeno Chara? Yeah.
He's unbelievable. I was very lucky and fortunate when Z was looking for an agent around the age of 20, first turned pro. He was with a big firm and decided he didn't want to do that, which was good for me. And, I contacted him or he called me. I said, if he's interested in me, he'll call me. He was like a 6th defenseman back then. He faced a lot of adversity, through his career. Like, this didn't just happen and Z was like the guy, he faced a lot of adversity. And Zdeno, called me and he said, hi, Matt. I said, hi, Z. And he goes, I'm interested in talking to you about being an agent. I've been interviewing some guys. It was like a Tuesday afternoon. And I just said, what are you doing for lunch tomorrow? And I've done that a few times. He's like, what do you mean? I go, I'll drive down tomorrow. Like, you're important. I'm not a big firm. I focus in on individuals. So I drove down the next day and I ended up staying for dinner. Started at lunch. We spent 7 hours together. He committed to me already. He's like, I love you. Let's do it. And we've been great friends. We've been great friends ever since. And he's just very special, very special. And actually, Radek Hammer played with him over in Färjestad too. He loves Radek. I think he mentioned Radek and myself actually in the Hall of Fame speech, which was very special. But no, he's great. I use him as an example of how to maximize your career. What do you guys want to do? What does your kid want to do? Does he want to maximize his career? Does he want to get the most out of it? So when he's sitting there like I am or older people are, and we're sitting there and going, God, I wish I had worked harder. I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. You don't want to get to that point when you're after your career over and you're regretting. You want no regrets. You want to maximize your career. And that's our job. Our job as agents is to help the player maximize his career. Okay. And the support system is the family, the trainers, the agent around him. It's the player's journey, not the parents. Okay. Mm-hmm. You have to let them face adversity. You have to let them make the decisions. They have to be in charge, because if it's the parents' journey, then we run into trouble. Then the players might step back and not want to play as much. But if it's their journey and they own it, that's the key.
Yeah, okay, we start to speak about parents, yeah, because it was funny when I tried to prepare for this podcast, because I am a mom who micromanage everything about Václav. It wasn't problem to be free for Václav, but it was problem for me. When is the time when a parents should take a step back and let their children take responsibility? Because very hard for the parents.
No, listen, that's a great question. And it's all case by case dependent. It depends on the kid, depends on everything. So I'll give you an example. So like Leo Carlson is in the gymnasiet system in Sweden. I give his parents a lot of credit. He was a late bloomer physically. Late bloomers are great. I love late bloomers. He was a late bloomer physically. He was 5'10" at age 16. Nobody thought he'd ever get drafted or even become a number 2 pick in the NHL. His parents let him live an hour away, an hour and 15 away. Got him out of the house a little bit and did it. Now that worked for him. Okay. Now they have a younger son, the same family have a younger son, but he's staying locally at home, but he's very independent and he's good. So everyone's different in terms of the approach. You have to read your child. You have to read the situation. But again, as I said, it has to be the player's journey. Let the player make the right decision. As long as I had this old coach tell me this years ago. He says to parents, listen, let your child or son or girl make make his own decision, ... as long as it's the right one, And if he's making a bad decision, then you talk through it and then you figure it out. But he has to have ownership of the journey. Very important. And, eventually, I think after the age of 15, 16, agents get involved, and you just have to, they'll help navigate it. They'll give you a roadmap for success, but the agent doesn't make the player makes the agent, right? The agent's not lifting weights for you in training. That's got to come internally from the player. Okay. He has to be the one who wants to do it and do the work. And he has to be the one who makes the sacrifices of not drinking or partying, not going out on a Saturday night with his buddies when he's got a game the next day. Like, you have to make those decisions if you want to be an elite player. If you don't, then that's fine. Go lead your life. Like, that's fine, but don't have any regrets. That's my big thing. Have no regrets. You want to maximize your career.
I want to ask you about agents. Too many parents ask me when it's the right time to start working with an agent. What is normal in USA or Canada when you start to work with the kids?
I think I don't like the way it's gone. When I started as an agent, we didn't talk to players till their draft year. Or till
Draft
they were
year?
18. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was
Wow.
totally different. And I was good for me because I was a scout. I operated on the draft. So I got in, right at the breaking point when kids were getting older. And what's happened now is that a lot of these big corporate firms, I named a few of them earlier, they're owned now by private equity. Okay. They're owned by investors. They need money. They need to grab as many bodies as you can in order to feed the engine upward. Okay. So they start going after players younger and younger and younger. And what's happened is in the last 20 years, a lot of agents have had success grabbing I'll just example, Connor McDavid at age 12 or Sidney Crosby at age 12 or 13. They grab kids at a young age, but they grab 10 of them. And then they see if maybe one or two make it. Great. But they grab kids at an early age. And that's the problem. It's gotten younger and younger and younger. I don't like it. I like kids to be kids. I think that's important. I like the Swedish system where you're not allowed to talk to a player until the year that is of his 16th birthday. So January 1st, if he turns 16 that year, so this year would be 2010s. Okay. If they do that, then they have the opportunity to talk to the player on January 1st. Some firms, bigger firms in particular, are trying to get to kids when they're a little bit younger, but at least they have guardrails, in place. We don't have that in North America. I think we need that. I've said that, to the NHLPA. Like, we need more guardrails to keep, like, they go to the Pee Wee tournament and it's crawling with agents now in Quebec. It's crazy. What are you going to say to a 12-year-old? Good game, bud. Way to go. Like, yeah. It's crazy. But let's get into the college system now, because that's becoming, now it's everywhere. Like, the college system is everywhere. With the NCAA rule changing a year and a half ago, it's changed how we do business over in North America, where the CHL kids up in Canada and the US kids are all eligible to go to college. And that's a whole new environment right now that we're dealing with. And so now, like, the rules are in place the same as like it is in Sweden, but you can't talk to a player until his birthday is 16, and you can't talk to him in that calendar year. So it's 2010s this year, which is January 1st for talking to colleges. Now you can talk to colleges, but you can't commit to a college until August 1st of that year. So there's like a 7-month period where you can, talk and be a part of figuring out where you want to go. So you really can't. I wish it was the agents the same way. When the kids are, the year they turn 16 is the year you talk to them. But unfortunately, that's not where we're at.
What should a healthy relationship between family, player, and agent look like? Because you very often, and from the first time, wanted to speak with Václav. Sometimes with Andrei, but not too much with us. And I think it was fair. It was very good. And we met you 2 months ago after World Junior Championships first time. So
it was because of the language
but I
barrier.
think it's okay. It's very funny. I can text you when I feel that I need to know any information.
So you're very lucky, okay? Because Andrei's been through this.
Yeah, I know.
He's been through it. Václav Sr.'s been through it. They've seen it. So when Andrei reached out to me, or we got connected, it was great. Like, I loved talking to him because he had a perspective of understanding the journey. Okay. And I think that that's important. I think he had worked with a number of big firms. So he knew, what Václav might need. It was a little different with us just because of the language barrier, but normally there's a free flow of discussion and information exchanged, you know, either with, you know, if you're in Europe or my European guys, or here with you, North America with Ian Moran and my son. And it's just a flowing thing. The best relationships I've had, I'll use Blake Wheeler. Okay. Blake Wheeler played well over 1,000 games, was captain of the Winnipeg Jets for a number of years, played in the Olympics. He was a great player. Started with him at age 15, like Vaclav, and took him all the way to 38.
Wow.
Went to a thing, was around for the Olympics, was around for World Cups, you know, all the way through. The linchpin of the, you know, the relationship below my one with Blake was with his father and his mother. Okay. And they were very good early on at being involved, but letting him lead. Okay. Letting him select the college. Okay. Letting him do his draft interviews, letting him lead. But I'm there for support. Like the best agents are the ones who give them a player a roadmap, like we did with Muskegon and UMass, and then let him take it, you know, let him take that path. But he has to have ownership of it, and which Vaclav does. Vaclav's like, I got to work hard. You know, he works hard, and he put a lot of work in this summer. Like he's going to have a huge spring and summer coming up, you know, because you're always working, you're always on that upward thing to get better. And so Blake Wheeler did the work, right? And we had a great relationship. You get into a rhythm with a family, okay, where you can make decisions on what's best for the player, but you have to know the parents. You have to understand their character and where they're at. When we research players, okay, to work with, we research the parents. We interview the parents and players as much as they're interviewing us. Yeah. So I did my research on Vaclav Sr. Okay. Like I asked around, you know, just like he, you know, was researching me, because if I thought you guys were crazy people, I wouldn't be here right now. Trust me. You know, we're all a little crazy, trust me, but I wouldn't be.
I trust you. Yeah. I want to ask you, what is important to you as an agent when you choosing a player?
And we've walked away from certain players, you know, honestly, like the big thing for me, like Peter Stastny said it best years ago. Okay. He said, I called Peter and I told him about Paul Stastny, his draft year. I said, geez, I'm a little worried, you know, he's dropping in the draft because people are worried about his skating. Peter's like, Matt, skating you can always work on. The physical side you can always work on. He goes, but the hands, hockey sense, and heart. Hands, meaning skill. Okay, that's just inborn, you know, genetics. Hockey sense, the brain, and heart, the character to compete. Okay. Those are the 3 H's that I look for the most. Okay. If I see a kid like Vaclav was Bambi, he's just like a baby deer. His arms were everywhere and everything else. You know, when at age 15, I'd see him on Instat, right? He was like a baby deer, you know, but he had hands. He was around the puck. He had hockey sense, and he competed, you know. And, you know, I watch kids when they're losing 5-1. Are they still working? All right. Are they selfish with a puck? You know, we don't want that. You know, that's why Vaclav is no look Nestrasil. He likes to look and pass. Right. And, you know, that's what we look for, those 3 H's. And then the parents. The parents are honestly the linchpin key, especially when the kids are younger, because parents need to stay away from social media. Parents need to not compare themselves to others. Don't do that, because everyone's journey is differently. Everyone has different genetics. Everyone has different blooming at different times. There's early bloomers, there's later bloomers. Everyone has a different journey. If you go on social media, then you're reading about everybody. You're comparing, oh my God, this guy did this and he's rated here. My son's rated here. Why? I don't get it. He's better than him. Do not get caught up into that. You'll drive yourself crazy. And, you know, everyone's journey is different. You know, sit back and enjoy the trip. You know, as long as he's taken care, surrounded by the right people is the most important thing. As long as he has a coach with the right characters, as long as he has an agent with the right character and the right beliefs, it's all about that. It's all about surrounding him with good people. Then it's up to him, But if you go to the wrong place with a bad coach or a bad situation, let him work through it also. Like, don't try to fix it all the time. Let him work through adversity. I mean, Zdeno Chara got cut from his junior team at age 17, and he played center. He was a center. Like, I looked up his statistics at dinner once. I'm like, Z, you had a lot of points. He goes, yeah, I was a center. I'm like, you're 16 years old and you were a center? He goes, yeah, it was great. I had so much fun. But he was angry that he got cut, and he had a chip on his shoulder. He had something to prove, and he outworked everybody, basically. And that's the mentality you have to have. You're always trying to prove yourself. You're always trying to, prove yourself to others and earn it. So that's the key.
I have one question which I have to Czech coaches. Somebody say yes, somebody say no. The question is hockey mindset. Can it be learned, or must a player be born with it?
I mean, that's a good question. I think it's a combination of both. Like, you have the internal energy and the character, probably via genetics. You're surrounded at a young age with parents where you develop values and belief. And so it's who you surround yourself with, but it's also internal. I think it's a mix of both. I watch players, and I have players that are internally driven, and that's just something they're born with. That character, that fearlessness. When you play hockey, you have to be fearless. Some kids are fearful, and they're going to struggle, especially when the checking starts. But if you have that internal fearlessness, it's that's character that you're born with. And then you're surrounded by the right people, whether it's the agent or the coaches or the trainers. That's the parent's job with the agent, to surround him in the best environment. Vaclav's lucky because Muskegon was one of the top 3 environments in the USHL. He is at UMass Amherst with a pro style coach who's able to, mold him the right way with the right habits, and so it's surrounding yourself with people are so important, along with the internal.
I would like to ask you to American system, and in your opinion, what is the biggest the difference between player development in US, Canada, and Europe? Can you compare it?
So I like the European system better.
You
okay.
say.
I struggle with the North American system because it's all run by money. I'm generalizing here. It's better in some areas. It's awful in others. I live in Boston. It's awful here because the rink owners want to sell the ice. Organizations are formed that will put together travel teams, and players are playing 80 to 120 games a year. Crazy at age 7. So Zdeno Chara started playing, his kids started skating at age 6, and they were already way behind. And Z's like, Matt, these kids are playing like 70 games already, and they're 6 and 7 years old. And I said, that's not development. That's the problem. I don't know what Czech does exactly, but in Sweden, they don't play games until age 10, full ice games. They do cross ice. They do technical things. Technical training, the right style, like Europeans in general are more technically sound in their thinking about development than we are. We're like, throw a puck on the ice and go play, and all the best players play on one team, and they win every game almost because the parents want to win the trophy, and they want to say, my player plays, my kid plays on the best team. It would be perfect is if in a league, everyone when they were growing up was 500, even. If everyone was even, every team was 15 and 15, even, then they're fighting through games, then they're having close games, then they're having scores. Have some adversity, it's not always about being on the best team. It's about being with the best people and the best coaches and everything else. So there's no straight line with development, right? But I think the best line is in Europe and the systems they run. Now we're getting better in the US. Like they've created in the last 20 years this American development model where we've gone to smaller ice, smaller sheet games when they're young, but we're still playing too many games, especially in the spring and summer. I'd like kids to play other sports, until 14 or 15 when they can specialize more. I want them to be athletes, not just robotic hockey players. You want athletes. So anyway, it's a little crazy over here.
I understand you. Yeah. At what age would you recommend the talented players from Europe to go to the USA or Canada?
Well, I think it varies. It depends on the player.
Yeah.
It depends on the player. It depends on the parents. Are they going to let the kid go? It's hard. It's really hard. I just think it's case by case. I can't sit here and say, hey, 15 and 16, you got to go, because there's some kids that can stay. I mean, there's plenty. The Czech system is a good system. Let's be honest. You're producing a lot of good players. You're in the medals. You've got a very good coach. I don't think he's going to coach next year. Patrick Augusta. I talked to him a few times, summer and fall. I couldn't be more impressed with him, his approach. I thought he was great. And I mean, you guys were medaling in the World Juniors every year, like you're right there. And so I think your system there is great. As long as you're in the right team and the right mindset, don't be in a rush to come over here. Come over here when you're ready. You have a good, coach. You have a good support system around you, because kids come over here and they get lost too. Not everyone has a good journey. So be careful with that when you come over.
Yeah, but too many guys from World Juniors will play in the CHL. They went there at 70 years old. So it's not only Czech way.
17 and 18, you're more mature than you are at 15 or earlier. Because the Czech system's very strong. It's a good system. I mean, you're producing players. Like you guys are. I think the Czech system, Slovak system is getting better again. It really dropped. I was lucky because I got them when they were, that 70, 80 borns I did well with. And then I didn't do as much for a while. I was over here and then I've gone back to Sweden. But, it went down. The Slovak system and the Czech system, I think, went down. Now it's back up. Now it's moving, So I guess my point is don't be in a rush to come over unless it's the right situation and it makes the most sense.
Matt, we speak very often about NCAA because Václav, the journey is interesting for people in Czech Republic. So no one knows too much about this way. Very often somebody say us, okay, but there is no much game in NCAA. And you said it before 5 minutes that very important for players when they are young is development. So can you say to Czech people, why is NCAA a very good journey for players? Because development.
There's two reasons, okay? When you want to maximize your career on and off the ice, okay? So I want players to develop as people. I want players that are going to develop as individuals. If they're going to class, they're structured. Their whole day is structured, okay? It's not like a junior experience where you're done at 1 o'clock and you have nothing to do the rest of the day. If you're playing junior hockey with no school gives you structure. It gives you social. It gives you a lot of time to exercise and work out and push yourself. So there's a lot of reasons to do the college route because you can train. And less games, more time training. You're not on a bus for 70 games, driving to Omaha or Moose Jaw or all over Canada. You're not doing that. You're really focusing in on your personal and your player development. I'll give you an example of UMass. I was out there last week and they have a great shooting room. They have a great weight room. They have a great locker room. The environment, the player has everything they need, as Václav said to me, everything they need to become an NHL player. Then it's up to the player.
Sure.
But I like it better because I want my players eventually to become businessmen, right? I want them to be making their own decisions. I want them to understand what taxes are, what real estate is, stocks. I want them to take charge of their lives, okay? So mom and dad aren't doing it. The agent's not doing it. No, they're doing it. I want them to become leaders on their teams. I want them to be a captain or assistant captain. I've had a lot of guys who have developed. I have Ron Hainsey, who is a longtime NHL player who, early on, wasn't very mature. And now he's the number 2 person at the NHLPA. He's the assistant executive director of the National Hockey League Players Association. Why? Because he worked through the system. He developed leadership. He won a Stanley Cup. That's a success story right there. Why? Because he developed the right values and beliefs, which I think I helped and others helped him form.
I heard that you weren't in favor of players from the CHL being able to play in NCAA. You liked the original ecosystem and were concerned that such a change would destroy the values of the NCAA and essentially turn it into another professional league. How do you feel about it now, a few months later?
I don't like it. I don't like it. I'll give you a couple reasons, right? So the NCAA does not want to fight any lawsuits. Okay. They don't want to fight, anything, it seems. So now they have a free environment where there's free transfers. So players can transfer every year. There's some hockey players that have played 4 teams in 4 years. I want players that want to tough it out. If they don't like the coach or they don't like the situation, how about grinding in and working and making it win the coach over rather than just leaving and giving up? I had Nate Schmidt, who's still in the NHL. He just won a Stanley Cup, who has played a long time in the NHL. He thanks me to this day because his freshman year at University of Minnesota, he wanted to leave. He wanted to leave and go play junior and then eventually go to another college. And I told him, no, you're going to regret it the rest of your life. And he toughed it out. He won the coach over and he became an All-American. Nowadays, it changes. Okay. The other issue is the nil money. It's professional now. And players are picking colleges, not on what the best college is, but where they're going to get the best money. It's not about the money when you're young. You'll make money down the road and professional if you're good. Okay. So it's not about the money. Obviously you want it fair, but it's not about that. It's finding the right spot. I don't take commission on no money. I don't want that. A lot of agents will charge, well, I got you this. I mean, I don't want your money. I want the kid to have it, but I want it to be a fair system. I don't like the fact that I'm getting phone calls about players of mine on other teams in college saying, hey, we'll give you money, or we want them here and let's move up. Like, be loyal to where you are, teach loyalty, not grab money and go to the easiest spot. That's what I think is important. That's character.
I understand you. How should a player choose a university? Because for Václav, it was very quick, everything. It wasn't the normal way. So how should a player choose a university? About the program? About what?
I mean, it really depends on, well, first you have to look at the player on and off the ice. 1, how is his academics? Will he be able to do the schoolwork? 2, is it a city or is it a country? Like, what environment is it? The campus, everything else. You've got to look at the coach, his track record of development, his style of play. Like, Václav's a skilled player. I wouldn't want him on a grinding, team that just throws the puck in, goes in and tells him to hit everybody. You want him to be in an environment where he can make plays. So I think you have to, and that's where an advisor, an agent really helps. Because I've seen all the colleges. I know the path of what they've done. I know their depth chart. I do research on the depth charts of what each look like and how do I fit in there. And I know all the coaches. It's no different in NHL free agency, knowing all of the organizations and making the right decision if you're a free agent and going there. Like Zdeno Chara, he had a lot of options. We narrowed it down and we picked the right spot. It's no different when you're picking a college. You got to narrow it down and pick the right spot. Some kids, in terms of their style of play, it's a no-brainer. It's easy. I think for you guys, it was easy with UMass. Yeah. And us talking it through. Andre was great during that process, of not wanting a big name school that's going to, a perennial top 5 to 10 school where there's going to be first round draft picks from the US program or from Canada that's might bump a check kid. You want to find the right spot with the right people. And fortunately for Vaclav, he found that and others. So we really try to, encourage kids to go. But in the end, again, it's the player's choice. You present options and they choose.
I would like to ask you a short about NHL Draft. The NHL Draft is approaching, and you say the draft at age 18 isn't that crucial for a player's career. Why?
I don't care where a player is at age 18. I care where he is at 22,
Right.
23. Because at age 18, you're not signing a contract, you're not playing in the NHL, and everyone's development path is different, So there's kids that are kind of here maybe, right? And they're third rounders or fifth rounders, or like Nate Schmidt or Andre Sustri never get drafted, never. And they make the NHL. And the only round that maybe matters is the first round, because the first round, organizations tend to give their first rounders more opportunity because they're first rounders. But if anywhere from the second to the seventh round, I don't care where kids get picked. And I don't care if they get picked at all. It's where they are at age 22, 23. The problem with the draft is that it gives the parents and the players opportunity to compare themselves of where everyone is. And a lot of the parents and the player want the external gratification of getting drafted, or I got drafted higher. It's not about that. Go to the gym. Go do your work. Find a good pathway. You're going to get better. It's all good. You're going to have a great life. You're only 18. Like, the draft does not define you. What defines you is those years after the draft, as you earn your contract and you earn your opportunity. Because we exist in a pyramid, okay, where you have youth hockey, and then you move up juniors, and then you move up to college. But then you got to move up to the American League and then the NHL. So it's this pyramid that we're working on, okay? So it's not here, when you get drafted in juniors or high school. It's what you do in college, American League, and then the NHL. Do you like that? I like the hand thing. But it's that pyramid thing. So you got time. It's a journey, not a race. It's not a race. So don't worry about the draft. That's my advice.
What advantage do so-called late bloomers have, and why can later development even be a strategic advantage? Because Václav is a little bit late bloomer.
It's all genetics. So kids are going to develop based on mom and dad and the genetics and their background. But you can also be a more earlier bloomer if you put the work in. If you're working on your skating, you're working on your skills. But that's all genetics. It's kind of like the hands, hockey sense, and heart, right? You're born with the character. You're born with the drive and the fearlessness. You want to be fearless. So you're born with that, I feel.
Which story from your career are you most proud of, and why? It's too many.
I've been dying for you to ask the question. In our preparing notes, you mentioned it, and I highlighted it. I was very excited. My most gratifying story is about a player who went to college and drank himself out of college. Okay. And this is a well-told story. His name is, and he doesn't mind me telling it. His name is Scott Darling. Okay. And he was a goalie who went to University of Maine. I worked with his parents very closely, and Scott had an alcohol issue, which is well documented. And it's all on, there's a great story from the Players Tribune from Scott Darling and his goodbye to Chicago eventually, that talks about the whole journey. But he ended up leaving college, went to Arizona for a training camp. I went down and met with him there. He was a 6th round draft pick, but I'm not giving up on him. I told him that. I flew to camp, and he's like, I'm good. I feel good. I feel good. And then he got kicked out of camp for drinking, and they sent him to Las Vegas. Not a good place. He got kicked out of there. He bottomed out and played in the Southern Professional Hockey League, the lowest level you can play. Okay. And he's like a 6'5" goalie. Great kid, but had some demons. His mother and I got him into rehab. And it's like, dun, 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 dun. You cue the Rocky music, and all of a sudden this kid just comes out of rehab, calls me and says, okay, what do I have to do to make the NHL? So I'm like, you're going to go back and you're going to start at the Southern Professional League. I got him call-ups to the East Coast League. You can look at his hockey elite prospects, Scott Darling. Got him number of call-ups up to the East Coast League. Got him called up to the American League. I'm like, now we're cooking. All of a sudden, he does well in the American League and with the Predators organization, but they didn't want to sign him. So I got him a deal with Chicago Blackhawks, and he's from Chicago. Okay, so now we have a local kid who's gone down and right back up, and boom, we're there. Like he's in the NHL. First training camp, Joel Quenneville. I text Joel Quenneville, who I've known for years. How's Darling? He goes, well, he hasn't let a goal in. He's in great shape. He's doing great. We're watching him closely, but he hasn't let a goal in practice. So he made the team. It was unbelievable. Then they win the Stanley Cup. What a story. And it was, I cried a few times. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I have a great picture in 2015, I'll send to you, of me and Scott Darling on the ice after he won the Stanley Cup in 2015. Wow. That, for me, is the biggest thing. Because my mother, who was in education, did a lot of counseling with, alcohol, drug issues and everything else. So it's close to my heart. And I can't, I was sorry, I know Zdeno Chara might see this and go, what about me? I'm like, no. This was the most gratifying by far.
It's a great story.
Yeah. It's online. Like you can read about it. It's just a wonderful kid. I still stay in touch with him. When kids retire, I'm still in touch with them. I said, I'm still representing you, of course. They're all great people.
After more than 30 years of working in the NHL business, what still fascinates you most about hockey? Because when you are in some business 30 years, it's a long time.
I think it's the people.
People?
I'm fascinated. Oh, I think it's the people. Yeah, I'm fascinated by, the players' journey, obviously, all the way through. I'm fascinated by each college, junior team, NHL, 32 organizations. I see all of the organizations through the eyes of my player, right? Mm-hmm. So I know all the organizations. I know their cultures. I've watched guys. I scouted back in the 90s with guys who are now general managers, who I've known for 30 years. And that's the fun part, as a long-term relationship. Jarmo Kekalainen, the first European general manager, I've known since early 90s when I was, he was a player. I met him quickly, but then when he got into scouting. So I've known him for 30 plus years. It's fun. That's the fun part for me, really, are the people and the relationships you build, and especially with the players and the parents.
Okay, Matt, what message would you like to say to Czech parents of young hockey players?
Surround them with the right people. Build character by surrounding them with the right people, whether it's the agent or the strength person or whatever. And please take your time and be patient and let him lead the journey. Let him evolve into a businessman, okay, who does stuff for himself, who's not enabled to, parents are doing everything for him. Like, be patient with the journey. It's a journey, not a race. Don't be in a rush. Remember, it's where you are at 22, 23. It's not where you are at 16, 15, 14. It's not. Be patient. So that's my biggest advice.
That is biggest advice. Thank you so much, Matt. It was very nice to speak with you. Thank you for your time, and I hope we will be in touch.
Yeah, of course we will. And I love running and working with Win Hockey Agency and my European guys. And over here, I have to give a shout out too. It's fun. We have a fun time, and it's very gratifying to see kids have success. But thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Now pushed ahead. Here's Novotny looking for his second of the game. Centers it. They score. Nestor ties the game at 2.